Hi there, welcome back to Dave's Desk for another reflection continuing through the stories and the lead up to Jesus' death and resurrection. And if you've watched the last video in this series, you'll have seen our discussion of the Last Supper. And at the end of the Last Supper, the disciples go out for a walk. They've had a big meal, they go for a walk. Very normal, very natural. And Jesus leads them through Jerusalem. He takes them, it seems, to past the temple probably, and then out through the city to the garden at the bottom of the Mount of Olives. And we've reflected more on this in our Holy Week series of videos, so do please look there for more thoughts on this period of Jesus' ministry. But it's a really striking account of Jesus' choice and the way in which Jesus makes a choice. The mood as they walk through seems really calm. The disciples don't seem to have quite switched their thinking into what Jesus has been saying to them. Calm enough that they fall asleep in with full bellies from a big meal in the garden. But Jesus isn't calm. Jesus is really aware of what's approaching, and so he goes to pray by himself just a short distance from his closest friends. And he then makes some really important choices for him and for us. And he chooses time and again, he chooses us. You know, he hopes for a path out of danger. He hopes for a path that will lead to joy rather than to pain. He accepts that the cost of saving us is receiving the punishment that we have earned for ourselves. And he accepts that he will receive that punishment in full. Jesus makes the choice to allow his heart to be broken in order that our broken hearts can be healed. Jesus allows himself to be arrested. Judas, who had followed Jesus for years, has decided to betray him for 30 pieces of silver, a small bag full of silver. He gives over his teacher to the authorities with a kiss. And Jesus allows himself to be arrested by the soldiers that have come with Judas. He stops Peter from fighting back. He knows that if he wants to, he could call down legions of armies, but he chooses to be arrested, to go with the guards and eventually be handed over to the Romans. His followers all escape into the night, some following at a distance, but all hiding from the rulers. Only Jesus chooses to stand up for himself. And I think it's important to remember that these choices are not choices that Jesus regrets or goes back on. He chooses us over himself time and again. He chooses us, or he chose us when that test was still far off at the beginning of creation. He chose us. He chose us in the garden when the test was close at hand. You know, some of us will never face that kind of testing, that kind of choice. And some of us may flee from the moment of that challenge and that test, and some of us may accept it gracefully and with peace. But Jesus will always choose us. The only question is, will we always choose him? Thanks again for joining us today. I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.